All right, welcome everyone. This is Chris, and I'm so thankful you're here. We're going to have a absolutely fun time going through all the processes you're going to need to create this wonderful painting. We're going to have this photograph that I have from my book, my watercolor book. It's kind of new. It's been out a couple years now. You can always see and check out my new book. I have actually a small video, a 2-minute video that walks you through all the paintings that I have in my new book, and this is one of them. It's a sea shack, basically, along a fishing shack along the ocean and the bay here. Tons of interesting three-dimensional quality to this painting, as well as some really nice color mixtures. So we're going to have this on camera at all times. We're going to show you exactly how to get a perfect drawing from just using this type of a clipping from one of my books. My book, I should say. So that'll be on camera at all times, as well as our palette. And then we're going to show you how you can create this palette by just using something like anything, a dish, a plate, a small pan like this. I take this pan, I show you how to mix the simple colors of the color wheel by just using the 3 primaries, red, yellow, and blue. We take those colors, put them in the pan, and then we mix all of our colors that we're going to need from just those 3 primary colors. We'll show you how to do that too, so that your painting winds up being absolutely gorgeous when it comes to the colors, because we're not going to be mixing anything sort of that's not kind of in the same colors as we start with in our painting. So that's really going to be important. We'll cover that too as well, and there'll also be a link to this color wheel creation that we did just recently on a video to explain the color wheel, just to get back a little bit to basics. So if you want to watch that video, you'll see the link to that video below in this video as well. So we're having a lot of fun here. Let's get started. We'll get right into it with the drawing, and then we'll just cover quickly the paint colors we're going to use, and then we'll get right into the painting itself. So we're just moving right along here. We saw the finished painting, and we just discussed a little bit about how we're going to create this composition. I did take this photograph from my book, so I just basically took my my book and trimmed out the picture, and then taped it down to my board here. So that's very simple. My watercolor book, Methods for Success, is down below in the comment section if you ever want to pick it up. It's a great book. I always advocate my book in that everyone would kind of purchase it. You can there's a lot of paintings in there that you can work from, and actually I have a video down below in the comment section. You might have to type on the word more, but if you type on the word more down below underneath the video, you'll see that my book, a link to my book is there. You can check it out on Amazon. And then also too, I have a video, a YouTube video that's it's only 2 minutes long video, so it's a very short video, quick video. But what I actually do is I flip through all the pages of my book. So I have my book. I flip through each page of my book, so you can see all the paintings in there. And then what I do is usually I have like 2 or 3 copies of my book that I always keep on hand for people, for gifts, or if someone wants to purchase one, I'll always keep a stockpile of books that I have. But I also use like two books to clip my paintings out, and so I do that too as well, because it's a lot easier just to take a small clipping of my painting from my book and then just tape it down to my table and work like this, versus trying to take my book and put it in front of me on the table. So it works out. It's very convenient this way. So okay, so we have our reference photo here. And we have, let's take a look what we have here. Our paper size here is like an 8 by 11 paper size, and I'm using here Arches Rough paper, and I think that's what I used originally on this painting as well too. Arches Rough paper. It's the orange cover. And again, all my art supplies, papers, paints, most everything I use, I'll always have in the link below too. You'll see the links below. So you'll see the art supplies. You can check those out online if you want. If you want to shop around for some supplies that you might need if you don't have them as a convenience. And so this is something new, and this is a butcher tray. I'll use this butcher tray for a really important reason. We just had a video actually just yesterday on YouTube going over the color wheel and mixing colors for your watercolors. And we're going to actually show you how you can take your color wheel and use it to create some beautiful colors in your paintings that are really going to harmonize and look absolutely gorgeous. So we're going to cover that a little bit later in the video when we start mixing up our colors and getting ready to paint. We're going to go over how you can use these two, which I cover in detail on my video, and I'll link the video below too. So you'll see this video where I cover these two color wheels in my in the description below. So you have that, so you can reference this too, the video that we just did creating these two color wheels. And so we'll have that. And what I'll do next is I'll put these in here. These are going to be our colors. We'll kind of go over that soon. So we're going to cover the colors and everything soon. Let's get the sketch done. So this is really what I'm going to do is I'll do an interesting, let's do sort of not a vignette, but similar to a vignette. With this, we'll take a tape. Actually, we don't really need that. We can just use the first thing. Let's do this. Let's get the center of this paper. We'll find the center of this paper, and I'll use a T-square like this. So I'm using a T-square. These are absolutely fantastic. You can just set them right down on the paper and get the center of your paper really easily. So what we'll do is we'll just go across here like this, and we'll say this is going across 10, 11, 12. So the actual full paper beyond the tape, I've taped the edges of the paper, is 12 inches. So we can just say 6 is going to be the halfway point there. So now we have the halfway point here, and we can just make a very super light crosshairs on this watercolor paper, but I'll make it darker so you can see it, but I wouldn't make it this dark. At home when you're working, I'm trying to make this dark so you can see it on the video here, but you'll just make this super light so you can barely see it. Only you at home you'll see it. Just a tiny super light pencil line, because we're going to divide this in 4 equal parts, our paper. And the next thing I'll do is the same thing up here. I'll take this, put my T-square on the bottom, and then I'll look up here and I'll say that's 9 inches. So half of 9 is 4.5 inches or 4.5 inches. So then I find my 3 inches, 4 inches, 4.5 right there. I'll make a dot there. And then I'll come across here with my T-square, line it up on the edge of my paper, and that gives me a good straight line all the way across, a level line. So now we have, let me make this darker so you can see this. We have 4 quadrants or 4 parts to this, or we have a crosshair and a center point. Next thing we're going to do is measure this here, this painting we have here. Now this is a great way to actually kind of get your proportions correct for your paintings. So you can do this with anything, any kind of, you could I'm trying to think. There's a lot of creative ways. If you've watched my videos a lot, you'll see I do a lot of creative things with laying out paintings, measuring, things like this. We've been doing this recently a little more, where you can kind of just measure this and transfer the same measurements down into your painting. So you could just, in essence, take this and say, okay, what is this measuring? This is 4 inches by approximately 5. So we could say 4 inches. So that's 2 inches up here, 2 inches down here. That gives us the 4 inches in height for this. And it's 5. Let's go 6. So 3 and 3. Let's just say it's about 6 inches. 3 and 3. So now we can take our T-square again. I would invest in a T-square if you're a watercolor artist, because this really helps you. It saves a lot of time. So we just hold the edge of the T-square along the edge of the paper, which gives, it's already a straight edge for us, so that settles that. We'll get another square. We're making another square within our rectangle here, our paper. So then we're going to do this here too. Make another line here. Then we're going to go here and say, what was our measurement over here? 6 inches. We said approximately, we went with 6, 3, and 3. We made our hash marks there. And we'll do the same thing. Use the T-square, and we hold it on the bottom of the paper, the bottom edge of the paper here. And right on the line where we said we measured 3 inches out from the center, because this is 6 inches, so it's 3 inches from the center this way and 3 inches from the center this way. That gives us the 6 inches, like that. And then we just come across here and do the same thing. Hold the T-square on the edge of the paper, and we get our other line here. Okay, so now we have basically this same size paper right here. We've kind of transferred this same exact measurements here right onto the paper that we're working on. Then what you can do, once you have that done, you can basically erase. And again, you only go with a super light pencil line. I'm only making these dark so you can see them on the video here. And then you just erase these lightly with a kneaded eraser, which doesn't create any crumbs. Okay, that works out good. Okay, like that. Now we can also remove the pencil lines in the center and even out here. So basically, if you can imagine, you just want to have a light pencil line that only you can see very faintly on your paper. Once you paint over it, you'll never see it. So you won't even see these lines once you're completed with your painting. So you don't have to worry about that. But you just want to have enough of a line just so you can see how to start to transfer your marks down onto this from here. So you can do the same thing over here. You can find the center point. If we say that's about 6 inches there. So this works out to be about the center point there. And what I'll do is I'll use a red marker so we can see it, or a red pen, so we can see these lines. So this is actually going to be the red line across here. So that's the center line here that we have here, the center line, like that. And then when we want to go, we said it was 2 and 2, 2 inches up from the center point and 2 inches down. So we just go here and say 4 inches, 2 inches is the center line there. So now we do the center line here. Now you have your marks here on your reference photo. And now you're ready to sketch. You can kind of just really look at this and say, well, since this is the same exact size, you could actually just measure everything. You could just measure everything and say, okay, that's 1.5 inches down to the roof. The ridge, the actual ridge, the peak of the roof there, you could say that's 1.5 inches. You can come from the top of this down 1.5 inches. And there you have it. You have the ridge of your roof like that. Then below that center line, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch here. Was that a half? It was a quarter inch here. And then you can kind of see that we're a little bit past the center line there, a little bit past the center line here. And then you just swale that on out. And then you have your edge of your roof line right here, like so. And then we use this center line is right on the fisherman's shack here. So we're doing a beautiful fisherman's shack along the water. And maybe it's about there. It's not that. We could measure it and say that it's a 1/2 inch, not quite. It's about 1/4 inch above the bottom of the painting. That's the bottom of the fisherman's shack there. So there we have that there. That's the grass and the weeds across here. All right, we're really just using all these lines and measurements to transfer down into the paper what we're seeing. Now we can say, where's that distant shoreline here in this painting? And we just look here and say that is 1/4 of an inch below the eave of the roof. So 1/4 inch below this eave of this roof is that distant shoreline. And you can even take your T-square if you want. Great tool to have if you're a watercolor artist. And we make that line. That's the distant ocean line there. All the way across, like that. Okay, now, how about the next closest shoreline here? And we measure that and say that's about a little bit larger than it's like 3/16 of an inch, like that. And we can use, again, if we want to, we can use our T-square and go across there, and that's the closer of the two shorelines. And it actually gets a little bit here. That shoreline kind of gets a little bit wider, so now we can just make this a little wider like this. So it's a little bit wider over here. And then we have some other things that we can start to use for measurements. Let's take a look and see. Let's go across here. How far is that window? I'll use centimeters this time. How far is this window over from this line here, this plumb line? 4 centimeters. So we can go over here, 4 centimeters. And that's the window. And then you might be able to just, use your artist's eye here. As you look, you might say, I can kind of see that's the window, bottom of the window's about there, and there's a little bit of wall over here on the right side, like that, left. And that's really, and again, the chimney, we don't have to get like too. I think if you measure the main building, the fisherman's shack here, if you measure that like we did here, that's probably a lot of the other things you can just sort of, maybe the telephone pole. This is probably a good thing to measure too, because it's 1.5 inches above over here. How far is it away from the fisherman's shack? 2 inches. So 2 inches over from the fisherman's shack here is that telephone pole. There's one closer too over here next to the building. But this one's over here, and it's how high above the shoreline is it? 1.5 inches. So we go here, 1.5 inches, approximately there, like that. And then we have another telephone pole here, communications pole. And how far away from the center line is that? 1/2 inch. Maybe I'll go 3/4. I think it looks like more like 3/4 there. You can also adjust things a little bit if you feel like you need to. And then we have maybe we'll put a little bit of an angle on it. We won't make it exactly perfectly straight. Let's put a little touch of a angle on that one there. That one's over here. And this one's a little thicker. We'll put the cross member on the top. Like that. And then we'll make another, since we made this a little bit larger, this sheet of paper, we can extend this out further. So let's make this other fisherman's shack over here a little bit further out over here. Let's make it over this way. And this one here is, we can just kind of get this one in. We don't have to be too precise with this one. I think that's good. That looks fine, like that. And there's another telephone pole over here. And let's make this one just about like this. Like that. So we have our telephone poles, our communications poles, which really add a really nice dynamic to create the illusion of depth in the painting. This one might be a little, maybe we should make this one a little, we'll make this one a little bit, we don't want to make that one, it's too high up, I think. This is better like that. So we just make this a little bit, so you can adjust and counter adjust as you go when you're doing your drawings and sketches. So I think that looks pretty good that way there, like that. And I think we have all the main parts sketched out. Maybe we want to create the window panes like that. Then what we notice is we want to create the illusion of depth in our painting. A great way to do that is if you have a window like this, we make sure that we can see through the window to the other side, the shoreline through the window. So if you can get that shoreline through that window, the same as this here, that creates a really beautiful feeling of seeing through the painting a little bit, giving like a little more feeling of the illusion of depth. And let's see, I think we have, maybe we're going to have a tree over here, like this, pine tree maybe. We'll have another tree over here. We'll kind of put that next to the building. I'm just kind of sketching in a little bit of a tree there, like that. Another one here, just very loosely sketch it in, just so you know where to paint it. Trees, I kind of find you can really paint trees more with the brush. You really don't have to do much drawing when you're creating trees. I find that's the best way to do like trees. You know, you can just kind of get the shape of them, what you think you're going to want. Like here, this one's a little smaller next to the shack, and then this one over here is a little taller, so we have this one up here. So if you just get the basic idea of the shape of it, the size and the shape, we're fine. And then the rest is pretty much, I'll just put a tiny little pencil line for these communication lines too, and that's going to be nice too. That's going to kind of lead our eye over here to this other shack, and hopefully our eye will come back up here and come back into this main focal point here. All right, so we've done a lot of drawing, and we'll come back after this. We'll take a quick break, and we'll start to create. And let's just see a second here. Before I do that, let me just get that distant shoreline here. And the mountains in the distance like that. I just wanted to do that so that I don't forget to put the distant mountains in there. All right, we are well on our way to getting started now with our painting. We're going to just mix up our colors next, and we'll just go over it again. One quick brief look at our color charts that we said we were going to reference, and that's going to be how we're going to mix up our colors here in the pan, the butcher's pan. You can also use, I have a plastic tray, so you could get creative, but it's nice to have a larger kind of like open pan like this, or anything really. I use metal. I like metal better, so I'm always going to take metal over plastic when it comes to like palettes. So I always like using metal palettes, although there's some great plastic palettes. This one's a great one, Zoltan Zabo. The Zoltan Zabo palette is a really beautiful plastic palette. Also the John Pike, that's another great plastic palette. A lot of artists use the Pike palette, the John Pike palette, which is great. It's got a huge lid like this, It's got a huge lid like this, and then it's also got a large mixing area and also paint wells for your paints. Maybe when we come back from the break, I'll show you these two palettes that you might consider if you like a little bit of a larger palette, especially if you're going to paint larger paintings. You'd want to use larger palettes like this if you're going to do like larger compositions. Let's come back in a second, and we'll just keep moving along here with getting our paints mixed up and creating the painting. All right, so we're going to start mixing our colors in our pan here. And again, we talked about we could use one of these two or even other possibilities for colors. We're going to just use, I'm going to choose this color wheel, and this has this is the alizarin crimson, cad yellow lemon, and French ultramarine blue. So those are going to be the three primaries we're going to use. Although you could use the other three primaries, so you can work either this combination or this. So this is the other combination. This combination down here is also good. That's a cadmium red, cadmium yellow, and cobalt blue. Cobalt blue, cadmium yellow, cadmium red. Great combination as well. And we'll use this combination here, which is again alizarin crimson, cadmium yellow lemon, and French ultramarine blue. Okay, so now we're going to just see what that can do. What we'll do is we'll kind of mix this the same way we have in the color. We're going to kind of create this in the color wheel fashion. We can look at our color wheel actually as we're setting this up, so we don't. I'm going to have this right here and reference this. So I'll put the alizarin crimson here. And again, we're just going to have fun using this method of mixing colors. Obviously, I have more colors in my palette, so I'm always going to be using those. But for this exercise, we're just going to try to kind of utilize the three primaries. Cadmium lemon yellow next, that's up here. And then our French ultramarine blue here. We'll put that over here. Like that. So in essence, we may not create the same exact color combinations and in the same hues as colors we see in this painting, but we will have a really beautiful painting because we're going to just use these three primaries and mix everything from there. So now the main goal is, once we have these three colors out, we're going to start mixing our color wheel right here on the palette. So I'll take my brush here. I think I'll get some fresh clean water. I'll pour out some fresh clean water in my water bucket, and then we'll start mixing out. Let's mix our orange first. Now we're mixing these colors. Probably best to rinse off the brush and dry off a little bit of the water. So I rinse off my brush over to the right in my water bucket, then I dry off just a touch of the the water, and then we come over here and we'll get the cadmium yellow there. Okay, cadmium yellow, lemon. We've got to remember that. Now, this looks a little bit, we need a little more red in there to get that orange. Okay, that seems pretty good. We could use more though. Let's use more paint. And I'll scoop, get some good amount of paint there. Let's not, we're just going to sort of be mixing this with thick tube paint. We're not using any water basically. We're mixing the color with just the tube paint, no water. So we don't want any watery looking puddles in this here right now. We're just getting the colors mixed like so. Okay, do the same thing. Rinse off brush, dry off on the tissue. Then we'll mix our next, the green. I would go with more lemon first, like that. More yellow first. Kind of a good rule of thumb is we do the light color first. Get that light color in there. It's a lighter value, a lighter tonal value. It's not darker. And then go in with a little bit of the darker blue, French ultramarine blue, and mix that and see what we have. You can always add a little more blue. So start out with a light, just a lighter amount of blue. And I think that is a good green. That looks like a good medium green right there. So we can even make a little more here. A little more blue. Okay, no water, just paint right now. Like that. Fine. I can rinse off my brush, dry off a little bit of the water on a tissue or a paper towel or a sponge, whatever you have. And then we'll make the purple. So we'll go with the red first to make our violet, our purple or violet. We could call that either one, interchangeable. We'll get our red, alizarin crimson. Then we'll just take a dab of the French ultramarine blue. That makes a great violet. We need a little more blue in there, I think, though. Yes. That is looking good. And then you can always test these colors. You can grab a piece of scrap paper, scrap watercolor paper. Let me see if I have a little bit of paper over here I could use. Let me see, what do I have? Okay. And we could start up here. Orange. Looks pretty good. A little bit darker here. It's been diluted by a little bit of the water, so when I pick this up with a damp brush, you can see it gets diluted a little bit, but it's still pretty, you know, that's the color. Let's do the green. That looks like a nice green. I rinse off my brush again, and we'll get some purple. Let's see how that looks. Yep. You can see how that makes an incredible violet, the alizarin crimson and French ultramarine blue. Okay, so those are our three color swatches, which are our secondary colors. So we've mixed our primary colors, our straight tube colors right there, nothing to do. We get our secondary colors, which are highlighted in yellow here. So our primaries are the pink highlights. Didn't have to do anything with those. Those are just as the way they are. That's the primaries. Then the secondaries, again, we mixed orange and red together. I mean yellow and red to get our orange, secondary color, orange. Yellow and blue together to get our green here, secondary. And then our secondary over here, red and blue for our secondary, which is our violet or purple. Now we'll just do one more mix out to get our tertiary colors. And that we'll mix that over in the side of the pans, so we'll make our tertiary colors around the outer edges of this pan. But I'm just going to take a quick break right now so I can empty out my water bucket, and also I'm trying to. I have a couple of other pans that are similar to this. This is a butcher block, a butcher pan. I have a few other palettes that are more readily available. I don't know if these are readily available online on Amazon. They should be, but if they're not, there's also some other palettes you can use, or you can be creative and use anything you'd like. You could use ceramic plates. I have a couple ceramic plates that I picked up at a not a dollar store, like a red, white, and blue store. For discounts, I buy vases and things like that, and sometimes plates. If I see a nice white plate that's ceramic, I'll take that and purchase it, and then I have it to mix paints on. This I think I did buy on Amazon with this butcher tray. But any case, I'll be right back. I'll find those other two palettes. They're nearby, I think, in one of my shelves here in the studio. And then we'll kind of just show you a couple more palette ideas just for 2 minutes. And then we'll mix the rest of our colors out, the tertiary colors that are around here, the outer edge of the color wheel. And then we'll start painting, and we'll use all those colors, the same ones right here derived from our 3 primaries. And we're all set. All right, so we're... I just wanted to cover that few palettes. This is the Zoltan Zabo palette. It's plastic. Pretty nice palette. Lots of room for creating washes. If you can see, this kind of has these deep wells here. And plenty of room for colors to squeeze out your colors in here. And then of course you can use the lid as a secondary mixing area. So this would be really nice for, you know, medium to large size paintings. You could use it too for smaller paintings. That's a really good palette. I like the metal palettes again, so, but these are still great. This is the John Pike palette. A lot of artists use this. Plastic, hard, very hard, rigid plastic. Very durable. Lots of compartments for mixing, wells for the paint, and then a lot of area to mix the washes. And it's also got the lid too, which could act as a secondary place to put other washes. Again, great for larger paintings, but you could use it for smaller paintings too, I guess. So those are two additional palettes, but this will be fine for what we're going to do here. So we're on our way to mixing up the tertiary colors. So and then we said, let's mix our tertiary colors. Let's start here with orange. So if we mix orange and red, that's going to give us our tertiary colors. So I'll mix up some more yellow. Touch of red. Alright, that's our orange. But we need to be a little more red there. That's good, a little bit more red. Okay, that looks pretty good. Then we're going to go with yellow-orange. Yellow. Straight cadmium yellow to mix up for that. And then orange. Red and yellow. And a little more yellow, I think that needs. That looks pretty good. Then we need our tertiary yellow-green. So that's going to be green. Let's mix up some green. yellow and blue. Okay, that's our green. Then we need to add a little more yellow to that. Okay, good. Then we're going to move over to the blue-green. So we need to mix up green again. So we're just kind of going back and mixing our secondary colors. Yellow, blue, green. Then we add in an additional bit of blue. And we have a nice blue-green. Now we're going to go with blue-violet. So that's going to be violet and then a touch of blue in there. So we'll make our violet, blue, French ultramarine blue, and alizarin crimson. We have a violet, and then we're going to push it toward the blue side. More blue. Okay, that's good. And then we're going to go with our last tertiary color, red violet. So we'll go with, again, we'll mix our violet. Okay, that's our violet. And then I'm going to push it toward the red. So we just add more alizarin crimson to that. And there we have it. So all we did really was transfer this same exact color wheel into our palette. So now we have all these colors mixed out the same way we did the color wheel. And then we're going to use that for this painting. And it's going to be a little different, obviously, because we're only starting with these three primaries and then mixing out the secondaries and the tertiaries. So I used other colors besides these, of course, in this painting. I used brown, which is very earthy, so that gives me some of those really, really dark darks. So maybe to get some of our dark darks, we're going to have to kind of settle for maybe more of the blues and greens and reds. We'll see how we can put everything together, but it's going to be a lot of fun anyway. It's a fun exercise of just keeping a palette more simple, the colors more simple, and seeing what kind of result we get from it. What I'll do is I'll also use a couple different brushes maybe. I think I'll use some square brushes, some flat brushes like this, as well as a round brush or two, and a couple maybe smaller ones for details. So we'll use a few of those different brushes. So we'll have the needlepoint brush. We use this for like a lot of finer details in our painting. And then we have a smaller round brush, a medium-sized round brush, and then we have three different varieties of the flat brushes here. So let's take these. We'll put them over here on the side of our table. I think I'm going to start with this large brush here to get our washes, our first washes. We're going to do the glazing technique, of course, on this painting. I think it just really looks to be a really good painting to use the glazing technique. And we'll work with that. I'll empty out my water bucket again. You always will notice that when you're mixing out your colors like this to create this type of a plan with your colors, you're going to have to change your water out like often. So you might have to change your water 3 or 4 times, or at least 2 or maybe 2 or 3 times as you're mixing out all these colors here. And then once you're done with this, you rinse out your water bucket one more time so you have more fresh, clean water to start the painting. And you go from there. So let's just get the paper damp. So I'm just going to take the paper and get some fresh, clean water on the paper and just dampen the paper. I wouldn't flood it out with too much water, just enough to get it damp, so that when we put our preliminary washes on here, the first glazing, I should say, or the preliminary wash, the first glazing, you'll have the paper nice and damp, and it'll give a nice effect of beautiful diffused colors and that light wash that we're going to look for in the first wash. So I just make sure I cover the whole paper again, fresh clean water, like that. And then right away we can go in, and for our sky colors, we're just going to take some of our blue, French ultramarine blue, maybe a little bit of the purple, a little bit of the green, perhaps a little bit of the green too, just to get a good sky wash. You can mix your sky wash right down here in the corner of the pan, like this. And what I'll do is I'm not going to cover the whole sky with blue. I'm going to leave some areas of like clouds. I can blot a little bit with the clouds if we want to, like this. We can even add a touch of blue on the foreground here, and on the water too as well, and on the fisherman's shack here. So we're going to get the light blue all the way across here, just like that. A nice glazing, light glazing, like that. The sky has some dynamics to it. I would add a little touch of orange maybe here in the bottom of the sky, maybe a little touch of orange, not too much though, just a little bit. Maybe a little bit too in the foreground, just to introduce some of the earth colors in the foreground where we're going to have our grasses and weeds and things like that. And I would also do the same thing, add some of that. And I don't think that's going to hurt anything if we just add a little to the sky too. And since we're using Arches paper, you have lots of time to work your colors into your paper, your washes, because it's very forgiving, as they say. The Arches paper, you have lots of time to work. As you can see, I'm still going in and working colors into the wash, the original first wash here, and it's fine. Okay, that is good. Let's let this dry now. That's going to take, if you have a blow dryer, you can dry this off maybe in 5 minutes. If you want to let it dry naturally, maybe a couple hours. So it's up to you. If you want to keep working quickly and keep working through the painting, then that's fine. You can actually just use a blow dryer and keep working, and that's what we're going to do. So you kind of work at your own pace that you like to. Okay, let's let this dry, and then we'll come back. All right, so we're getting back started again. We let this dry, so now this is 100% dry. I let this dry actually about an hour, and it's perfect now. I'm going to spritz my paints just to reactivate them a little bit, the washes, with a spritzer bottle. And we're going to start on our second glazing, which is going to be the darks, the darker darks in the painting for the most part. I think the sky, I'm just going to let that, I think I'll leave that the sky wash I think is good. I think I'll leave that just the way it is. And then let's see if we can mix up some darks here. Yellow, blue. So if we mix up blue, red, and yellow, the primaries, we get a pretty good kind of a grayish color. I think that'll work pretty good. Let's see if we can get some of that here on the building, the fisherman's shack. So we're going to go right into the fisherman's shack here. And this is a negative shade painting where you paint around the subject matter and it appears. So now we're painting around the weeds and the grasses, and that, you can see how that appears. We'll paint over the top of the window. And then we can just work around here and work around the palette and find some interesting colors. And I think just since we are using these same colors, I think we are just by nature, it's going to look really good. And I'm just trying to follow the painting. And I'm just mixing around the colors. And I'm keeping it simple here. I'll splash on a little bit of color. And then maybe we'll use a round brush for some foliage. Maybe we'll go in and get some orange and green for our trees. So again, I'm just going to really have some fun with this and use some circular motions here for the trees with a round brush. And again, red. yellow, blue, blue, yellow, red, one more blue. We'll get back to that little bit of a darker mix like we had. And sometimes just a little bit of darks on some, maybe the shade side of this tree. Maybe there's some light coming from this direction. So this might be the shade side over here. Like that. Some shade under here. Shadows. Maybe a couple branches. Indications of a few branches like this. We'll keep this fun and could do some finger painting here just to blot around a little bit, get a couple different more textures. We could do some splashing here. Like that. Maybe over here some more. And as you can see, we're working our way through the painting here, kind of like with just a kind of a logical approach to it, mixing the colors around. You have so many varieties of colors that you can mix and have fun and enjoy. You can put some spots of green, that light green if you want to. There's maybe a bit of a shadow over here on this side of the house. Actually, I would leave it like this with some of these. Maybe some purple. Some purple for some shadow colors. Then we can get in some, just maybe some directional, kind of like lines in the painting. Like that. A couple of spots and speckles for some sand effect. And we're really, I think this is coming along really nicely. I think we're getting to the point where we really will mix 3 primaries again to get a grayish color, purple, and then we add our yellow in there. And then a little more blue, so you kind of just get the feel for the mixture. Usually I think equal parts of red, yellow, and blue. Make that nice dark. Couple of finger scratches here and there. maybe a straight, almost like a straight French ultramarine blue for a little bit of that shadow under the eave of the roof. And again, as you're mixing these three primaries together and mixing up different variations of that, you really can't go wrong. You're going to have some really good looking washes. We'll make that distant fisherman's shack here. And we can even create some of that really nice purple for the distant mountains. Back over here. And as you do that, you can add in some greens and some oranges to kind of change the color of those distant mountains a little bit as we go across the painting, just to avoid like that like same, if we just made it all one of the same colors and we didn't change any of the colors in that, I think it would look not that convincing. But since we have some blue and oranges, and then we have to blot up there some areas if we overpaint. Okay, so we have that purple mountain there. Mountains in the distance. I'll try to take some paper towel or tissue, try to see if I can carefully lift up a little bit of that paint that I smudged over, and that does look good. Same thing with that rooftop there. If I can lift up a little bit, that's gonna work good. Then we can take some more of the a little bit of that greenish. And if you have some lines going this way, I'd try to keep them go in the same direction. Maybe a little bit of some darker darks over here. And some more paint over here. Some sand. I'm feeling like that's some sand here. I would definitely leave some white paper here and there. Okay. Pick up some wash here. lashes. And as you can see, I'm just trying to work out the All right, I think this is looking pretty good. Almost finished now. I would say a little bit of orange on that roof. All right, I think we can do maybe just a few more details with some, like our line brushes. Let's use our needlepoint brush next, and maybe a smaller brush here for a couple details. And that should be it. So we can finish the details with just two small brushes, a needlepoint brush and a small round brush. To get the final details, we'll do the telephone poles, the communication lines on the telephone poles, maybe a couple of branches and a couple of weeds here and there. And maybe we'll put in some highlights with our titanium white with a little bit of the orange color in there. And I think that's it. And maybe some window panes in there on the shack, and maybe a couple details on the roof. But we want to avoid too much details, so let's not go overboard with details, but we will cover how we're going to actually finish this painting. And you can see it's just about there, almost complete. Just those few different components to this painting that we need to wrap up here with the communication lines, telephone poles, chimney, couple window panes, and maybe a few wisps of grass here and there, and maybe a couple branches on the trees. And I think that'll be it. So we'll see how it turns out once we finish up. So we'll come right back, and I'm just going to take a quick break to relax for a few minutes, and then we'll finish out the rest of the painting. All right, let's finish up and wrap up this painting. Again, we have our needlepoint brush, small round brush, and some titanium white. And we'll, I think let's do the communication poles first. I'll make them pretty dark if I can. Let's try to mix the three primaries together in equal parts. It's going to wind up being like a greenish blue. That's pretty dark. So then I take my brush, roll it around so I get a good point on my brush. You can see it's a good point now on there. You can also, too, when you're doing details, dry off a little bit of the paint. And then we're always careful not to lean into any other areas that we might have worked on already. So and then with this, I'm just going to go like this, and I'll leave some broken edges there. This is why the Arches paper is so great. You can get those nice kind of hit and miss looks to the details. So instead of drawing just one straight line, you get some of those broken bits of wash like that. And we don't always have to do every detail. And then maybe this has gone off a little bit off the... So I'll just try to make a little bit of some lines on the left side over here to straighten this out a little bit. So your best bet is to maybe just go a little bit at a time. We'll go across here with our cross member on the top of our telephone pole. And a couple of details on the top there like so. Then we're going to create another thinner version here. We'll do this pole The telephone poles here, the communication poles, they get thinner as we go down the painting into the distance. So the further the telephone poles and telephone lines, the thinner they are and more diminished they are. They start to get smaller in height and also thinner. And so we're over here, and this one's barely, very little detail to that one. And that looks pretty good. Let's do a little bit of the windows here. Window panes. Let's do that. So I'll just do this like that. Like that. Maybe there's 3 panes like this. No need to do a lot of detail on that. Maybe a little bit of splash of water on there. Of a shadow over here, maybe. Just a bit of a shadow there. That should be good. This would be, I would anchor that one down there. We might have some shadows here. We try to introduce some shadowing for these telephone communication poles. Maybe we'll do the same thing with the this tree over here. We'll get some of that purple. And we'll just do a little bit of shadowing over here. Maybe some shadows for this house here, for the fisherman's shack here. And I'll make the shadows a little bit loose and with extra water in there, just to kind of and let's do a couple more details here. Let's do I dry off a little bit of that, and I'll create the chimney here. That. A bit of a shadow on the roof here. A little bit of a shadow across the ridge of the roof here and there, not everywhere. I'm just going to do a few little bits of lines there. Maybe some shadowing on these seams of the roof. Over here. And a little bit there. Okay, and then I think finally we'll use the needlepoint brush and just do some shadowing, or I should say some very, very fine lines here for just a few. And the same with this one here. And again, you know that any colors you're really mixing in this pan right here, it'll work with the painting. It won't be, I guess it's going to harmonize with the rest of the painting because we're just using this. We started out with the same three primaries, so no matter how much you mix these together in any combination, they're always going to look good together in the painting. Just added a little bit of purple on the shadow side of these trees. A couple of wisps of grass here and there. Usually, if there's areas that are still wet with a lot of wash from our shadows that we created here, that's not going to really work too well to trying to do these type of fine details like this. But if you can always let that dry and come back in like an hour or two. But this always does work nicely if you can get these couple of these really nice wisps of grass in the foreground here. Has to have enough water in it though to flow onto the paper. And we wouldn't see many grass details beyond the fisherman's shack really. And we can just do a couple of the sweeps lines here. We'll just try to just get a couple of these in here like this. You could take your time a little more with the lines, but you just get a few in there, and that's fine. I kind of I should have took my time a little more. See, now I'm sort of rushing a little bit. So especially when we're going to do something like these lines, if you feel hesitant about doing those lines on these communication poles, I would say if anything, maybe just do a little small, kind of like a curve that matches. You could even take something like a piece of paper. You know, you could always take a piece of paper and sort of curve the piece of paper, or, you know, like this. You could take a piece of paper and curve the paper from pole to pole, and then make a pencil line, a very extremely light pencil line, to make your curves for your lines so that they actually drape one to the next on these communication poles. They drape nicely with a nice curve to them. And then if you do that with just a light pencil line, then you can just come in and very, very ever so slightly just put a couple of little bits of, not everywhere, but a few little spots of some light paint, just so that it's a little more, you'd be able to see it a little more clearly, that there's those lines there. Because sometimes what happens is we try to kind of go fast and get these lines in, and then they don't look like they line up correctly. So that's just a kind of a little tidbit of information to get those lines a little better and more accurate. And then here we could bring one across there. Maybe make a small bit of detail here, like that. And we can even do a figure. So we had a figure here. We could do maybe some orange and yellow. Maybe like an orangey red kind of color. For the shirt, and then the pants we could just make it kind of a grayish color down here like that, so we don't have to get too much detail with that. And then for the head we'll just make kind of a darker, like that, and that should be fine. So we have a figure there, looks good. And I think we'll call this a completed painting. The only other thing I would do is maybe a little bit of white for the details here. So I would say some of this orange, we put a little bit of that orange in the top of our titanium white, just so we have a little bit of a warm white here. So we could do some of that orange there. And once we get that orange, a little bit of that reddish orange in the top of that white, that's fine, then it's going to look good. And then we can do the maybe the top of this the top of this fisherman's shack here in the distance is going to have a little bit of the white highlight there, like that. Maybe here's a little bit of white. Maybe up here on the top of the pole, there might be a little bit of light there. A couple little sparkles of white always looks good. There might be a little bit here. Across the sill, the window sill here. Can always put a little bit in our pan here. Just have a little bit of water in it, just a touch of water in there. And that just gives you another bit of some and even some here. And then if you need to darken up an area or something, you can go back in and add some darks. This would be a good time to do this. Get some of those darks back in there, because I think I lost a little bit of the shapes of the grasses and things in this bottom portion of the area here where the fisherman shack is. So if I just go back in and add some of those darks, like the grasses and stuff like that, it does look pretty good. And now that this is drying a little bit, we can get a few more wisps of grass, and that's pretty good. Maybe a couple splashes like this. And I call that complete. So thanks so much for painting along. I hope everyone enjoys. I know everyone's doing a great job out there. And I salute everybody for doing a beautiful job on their watercolors. We're having lots of fun here on my channel. I'm hoping you're going to subscribe. On the right-hand side below, there's a subscribe button. If you want to join us week after week and going forward into the future, please subscribe. This way you don't miss a thing. We're doing paintings just like this, as well as a lot of other subject matter like street scenes, cityscapes. We're doing flowers, figure painting, portrait painting. We're creating everything, beach scenes, boats. So don't worry, every kind of subject matter you could really enjoy in watercolor, we're going to do it right here. And so again, I wish everybody happy painting, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.